So let's see about disassembly. Now, even though we've already safety checked this, we'll go ahead and remove the magazine, do its safety check one more time, just to make sure we're clear and empty. You should always, it never hurts to double check to make sure your firearm is safe. So the first step in disassembling the firearm is to go ahead and release the striker. It is a striker-fired pistol. Do that by pointing the pistol in a safe direction and pulling the trigger. Now, this is the disassembly latch right here. And the way you would disassemble it is you would pull back slightly on the slide, just a little bit, that's all you need, and then pull down on that latch. So I'll try to do this to where we can see it. So pull back, pull down, then you can let the slide go. It'll go forward slightly, and then it just lifts off the top. As far as the frame itself, here's the front rails. The rear rails are right here on both sides. These are just stabilizers to help stabilize the slide. Here's your ejector right here. Let's see if you can see that. This is your sear, which engages the striker. When you pull the trigger, and it's kind of weird how this one works, when you pull the trigger, this pops up. That's actually the disconnector. This, when you pull the trigger, can now go down. Now, it's kind of spring-loaded there, but the way it works is it goes down, the weapon will fire, the slide will come back. When it comes back, it pushes down on the disconnector, and once that is pushed down, the sear will not go down anymore, and that's what will lock the striker back for the next shot. Here's the little lever on the inside that will operate the slide lock. Put the magazine in here, and you see when the last round's fired, that little shelf pushes up on the slide lock. So that's just how that works, in case you were ever wondering. As far as what you would do, you just want to clean everything off, wipe it all down, make sure there's no dirt and debris in there, light coating of oil. This is as far as you'd want to disassemble this. So we'll take a look at the slide. Here's the slide assembly. Here's our recoil spring. Now to remove the recoil spring, it's like most other semi-auto pistols of this type, you would just push forward and lift up slightly. And you can remove the spring assembly. It is captive, which that makes it very nice. Then here's our barrel. The barrel slides back and forth. It's essentially a blowback operated weapon, so there is no true lockup on it. And you can just lift that out. Here's our extractor right there. And the firing pin, you can see it, but it's right here. And that sear would engage it right in front here. But basically, that goes back and forth like that. So you just want to clean everything off, wipe it all down. You can remove the back plate if you need to get to the firing pin assembly. It's like most of the back plates. It's a little spring down in there that controls the firing pin. It's also what holds the back plate on. Okay, a little bit more information on the slide here and how everything works. You have the striker right there, and it currently is in its forward position, but if you notice, it's not protruding right there to where it would be able to fire the cartridge. You would need to push down on this safety here, and then at that point, the firing pin or the striker could go all the way forward, and then it would protrude right there to be able to fire the cartridge. I don't know if you can see that. Move back and forth there a little bit. And what activates that is when you pull the trigger, the disconnector that pops up right there, that pushes up on that assembly here. And basically that's put in place there so that if for some reason the striker would pop off of the sear somehow, or the sear fail, it would not be able to go forward all the way to be able to fire the weapon because you're not pulling the trigger. Pulling the trigger would push down on that disconnect or on that safety and then allow the firing pin to go all the way forward. See right there, when you push down on that, it allows it to go all the way forward. So this entire assembly here, the striker and everything, can be removed. 22 long rifle is notoriously dirty as far as when you fire it, so there'll be a lot of unburnt powder and things like that that get all inside the internals here. Some of it will make its way into the channel where the striker goes, and eventually it will cause it to gum up and not function properly. So you would need to be able to open this up to clean it out. So to remove the back plate, there's a little hole there, and that's where the plunger is that holds the back plate on. The spring that powers the striker is the same spring that pushes on the plunger. So basically you would just need to push in on that. So push in, and then you can pull this cover plate down or pull it off. Now that is under spring pressure, and it'll get away from you if you're not careful. So here, I'll show you. Basically you'll pull down, and then you can open it up, and I'll show you here with my finger. When you then open that up all the way, and that'll come out. That's the spring and the plunger. Then this entire assembly can come out as a unit. Now, in this assembly here, this is that safety that keeps it, the striker from being able to go all the way forward. Make sure that doesn't get lost, and there's a little spring there. There's also a little spring here. That's the extractor spring, so you want to make sure that doesn't get lost. Now, this whole assembly comes apart. There's a couple holes right here, and there's a couple pins on this section right here, and those would line up in those holes, and they're just locator pins so that it won't slide apart, but it doesn't snap together or anything. Now, on the striker itself, if you notice this little tab right there, and then see it sticks out, that rides in this channel right here. So that little tab would go into that channel, and then the spring, if you can kind of visualize all this goes right in there, and this spring is what drives everything, and that little tab that sticks out hits this little part here, which is on this safety. And if you notice, that's what goes up and down, and then that's what blocks this. That's the safety mechanism itself. So if you can see here, it will only go to there. It won't go that far forward. And then when that's pushed down by the trigger, when you pull the trigger, that allows it to go forward that little bit there to then fire the cartridge. And it's just that little bit of travel, just right there. So once you take this apart, clean everything up, to reassemble it, maybe just a little tiny bit of oil for lubrication, and this piece would go back on it here. Now there is that little protrusion right there that goes into the little corresponding notch in the slide. There are some rails right here and on this side right there. See if you can see those. And well, so it's notches. There's little rails here on this section, so you would just line those rails up, and this whole thing will just slides in then. Sometimes that could get hung up, so you need to push in on that, and that whole thing slides forward. Once that's in place, you can put the spring and the plunger in, get your back cover, and there's rails in back here, right there. and then there's the corresponding sections there. So that's where that would go. You would push down on this, and you need to make sure that it doesn't get away from you when you're doing this. And then slide that rear cover, and that's locked back together. As far as everything else, you'd want to clean everything off, clean off the feed ramp, clean the barrel inside and out. As far as reassembly, put the barrel in, put your spring assembly in. The little star shape goes toward the back, so put it in the little recess there, push forward and down. The openings in the slide, here and here, you would put over the rails, and then you just pull back, and we're all reassembled. Do a safety check, and there we go. I hope this information is of value to you, and if you would like to continue to see more, please hit the subscribe and notify buttons so that you get notifications when new videos are released. Thanks for joining me today, and as always, until next time, stay safe.